the Pride Heavyweight Championship title match!
青コーナー選手の入場です。
In the blue corner, from the USA, Lesnar!
Once again, it is your host, Arachnid Soul, coming to you tonight from the Saitama Super Arena in Japan. Brock Lesnar, the challenger, making his way down the aisle. Momentarily, we will introduce the champion. Pride FC Championship on tap. Screaming Crazy Lady Lenny Hart, take it away.
赤コーナー選手の入場です。
In the red corner, from the USA, Dan Severn!
One of the all-time legends, one of the all-time greats, produced in the United States in the sport of mixed martial arts. Dan the Beast Severn broke onto the MMA stage at UFC number 4. We will get into some of that later on. We will talk about the history of Severn. We will talk about the history of Lesnar. We will talk about the history of this awesome sport of MMA. But first of all, the introductions. There you see the challenger, Brock Lesnar. As always, follow us on Twitter at YTBingoHall. Lesnar here tonight looking to walk out the new champion. But to do so, he has to go through this man. To do so, he has to go through this fighter, this beast, this champion in Dan Severn. Dan Severn here tonight looking to show Lesnar that he's the better fighter, that he's the better MMA star, that he's the better wrestler. There's the rule set. Let's lay out and let's see if there's going to be a sign of respect here. And yes, there certainly is. Let's go to the action. You hear that opening bell. Brock Lesnar in the black and red. Dan Severn in the all black shoots in. Double leg takedown. Lesnar on his back. Back to a vertical base now. Both of these guys not known for their striking ability. In fact, when Dan the Beast Severn trained for UFC number 4, we talked about it earlier, he was training in the sport of professional wrestling. He was training in Lima, Ohio, in a professional wrestling school, in a professional wrestling ring by Al Snow. When we talk about Brock Lesnar, we can talk about an NCAA D1 champion, an accomplishment that also has been garnered by Dan the Beast Severn. Here you see an attempt at a katagatame. What Severn wants to do is take the top of his head and try to drive it down into the mat. He could also sit through, but when he does that, Lesnar might be able to spin out and might be able to gain control. As we saw that time, Lesnar was able to get out hammerfist shots that time. Straight jabs from Dan the Beast Severn, who was in full mount looking, and yes, gets back into full mount. That katagatame, so many times mistaken for another submission hold called a kesagatame, a rare submission you'll almost never see. It's a move you generally see in the sport of professional wrestling following up a side headlock takeover. It's a side headlock on the mat with the arm seized. We get back to the action, and this has been all Dan the Beast Severn. We can talk about their amateur accomplishments. We can talk about their accomplishments in the sport of MMA. We can talk about the fact that Lesnar is a former UFC heavyweight champion. But let's also talk about what brought them to the dance. Both of these guys, professional wrestlers, as we see the Beast now with side control. We saw some knee shots to the ribcage. Both of these guys, professional wrestlers before breaking into the sport of MMA. Let's talk about the fact that Dan the Beast Severn, not only a pro wrestler, but has successfully won professional wrestling's top championship, the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Championship. A championship that, wait a minute, no, there was a sprawl there. And we see that Dan the Beast Severn now has a side rear mount. Both men back up to their vertical base. The Muay Thai plum now from the Beast. Inside forearm shiver. But here comes Lesnar once again looking for a single leg. Front chancery. Great sprawl. And once again Brock Lesnar on his back and Severn into side control. Dan the Beast Severn holding that NWA championship for 3 years. One of the longest reigns in NWA history. Dusty Rhodes can't say that. Ric Flair can't say that. The Icon Sting cannot say that. And let's talk about the fact that the man who managed Dan the Beast Severn while he was the champion was also the man who oversaw the professional wrestling training of Brock Lesnar in Ohio Valley Wrestling. That man, Mr. James E. Cornette. Let's lay out here for a second so you can hear some of these shots.
3 minutes left.
And Lesnar now having to put his helmet on, having to cover up, bringing the champion in close so that the champion does not have the leverage on those strikes. Pride FC, starting in October of 1997, arguably the greatest, I will say it again, arguably the greatest MMA organization in the history of the world. Back to pro wrestling though. It was in late 2005. Lesnar went to Japan, captured the IWGP, the International Wrestling Grand Prix World Heavyweight Championship in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He lost that championship in June 2007 to the TNA World Heavyweight Champion Kurt Angle, another tremendous wrestler. And I gotta be real honest with you, Dan the Beast Severn has owned this match. You see the redness on the eye there. Oh, wait a minute! Down goes Lesnar! Down goes Lesnar! It is all over. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan the Beast Severn here tonight in Japan is successful. What a brawl, what a wrestling contest, what an encounter we just witnessed. Let's go to the replay. It was that looping left from Dan the Beast Severn, and we can watch it all night long. Dan the Beast Severn keeps the championship. Let's go to the official word from the ring announcer.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a big round of applause for your heavyweight champion, Dan Severn.
On behalf of the Bingo Hall of YouTube, it has been your host, your announcer, your man in the booth, Arachnid Soul. Intellectual, voracious, and passionate about combat sports. As always, like, comment, and do not forget to subscribe to the Bingo Hall of YouTube, where we take quality content to the extreme. Thank you, and good night.